if you took, Cheese and Magic Bear and yourself out of the equation, if you had to build a roster of players from the pool that currently exists across all the regions, who would you go with? And if you can give us a little bit of insight as to why.
Okay. Well, I'll do NA only because I do know like a decent amount about EU and a little bit about the minor regions, but NA, like I've competed in it for 8 years and I know these players like the back of my hand. If we're going unsigned players, I'll say I would start with Eris. Eris on Poab this season, they finished tied 5th or 9th, wherever they were. Unreal player. He's going to be really good eventually.
Someone who's not hit their skill ceiling yet.
He hasn't. And no, he hasn't. And he plays the game the right way. He's good at the off-ball stuff, and he's very good on the on-ball stuff. And usually in Rocket League, the only people that are good at the off-ball stuff are the players that aren't great mechanically and need, which is me, which is Arsenal, which is you have a ton of players like it. So I'd start with Eris. I would give me Eris, and then you look at the Omelet boys. They just took G2 to 7, just made a top 8. I would probably go something like I would probably take Andy as well from Poab. And then you match that with either like a Zanil or a Lion Blaze. I would probably go Eris, Andy, Andy's been around forever. Premium gap filler. Good player. Not as good as Eris, but it's why I see why they like each other so much. They fit. And then I would put Zanil on that team. Zanil's a player who came from, that core of like Cheese, Sosa, Gyro, like that PK Koi core, and I think he's hitting his stride a little later than I expected. I've kind of been gassing him up for a long time now.
Is a guy called Sosa?
Yeah.
Does someone name themselves
after
a guy
Chief
Keith somewhere?
There's a guy named Sosa. Yep. Shout out Gian. But I actually think NA is weird though, because like I said, you have the 6 of the top 7 on the top teams, and then you have LJ, Cheese, Magic. Like that's like the top 9 in my head. So it's
you got a bit of a mix in there, some like veteran
I don't know if you
and
can make a major team with unsigned players. If you have like a little budget to start buying out pieces, then maybe, but it's tough. And making majors now is just so hard. The change from 5 teams to 4 teams is massive. Like that's because now it's like you get a 5th 8, or back then you get a 5th 8th. You're like, okay, we're still like we're basically tied to go to the major, but now it's like, okay, that's not good enough, which is crazy. So it's weird.
Yeah, that's an interesting insight. I like the fact you've got some veteran in there. You've also got some bubble scene that's popping up and coming in. That's the big thing over here right now. I mean, I'd be honest with you, like I did not know a lot of the guys on like Team 3 and Magnifico before they kind of blew up this year. Yeah. In our region at least, they've come out of seemingly nowhere from my perspective as not an avid Rocket League watcher. I just sort of know enough about the scene to get by from a business standpoint.
Yeah. Atomic and Tox have been around for a little bit. Stizzy,
Tox, I've heard of his name around a little while.
Stizzy is actually a weird one because he's been getting gassed by like top pros for probably about a year now, just because of like rank 2s, like how he plays just in like the competitive game mode, where all the pros are like, okay, why is this guy not like at the top?
Yeah.
And there's a weird amount of players that are like very good in ranked but can't translate it.
Yeah.
And you play against them and you're like, I mean, there's even like lower tier pros or middle tier pros that are like that, and you're like, why isn't this guy on the best team in the region? In NA, you look at like Evo, where he's on Dignitas, he's not known to have the best mentality, but you look at his talent and it's undeniable. It's just someone teach him how to play the game and be a normal person, and he would be a top player in our region. Like it's tough.
There's a few people in Rocket League that could benefit from learning how to be normal
people. Esports is a weird thing, dude.
A lot of people who are very reserved and shy, and when they get into that sort of team situation, it can be a little bit of a daunting thing, I guess, being around people all the time.
And I get it, right? Usually, the people that are the most normal in esports are the ones that played sports growing up. Yeah. Me and our coach Greg actually talk about this all the time. You look at just in NA, like I can think in my head like the players that played a sport, the players that didn't play a sport, and obviously like there's players that played a sport that are not normal, and there's players that didn't play a sport that are normal, but usually it correlates pretty heavily where it's the players that were locked in their room in COVID, playing Rocket League 14 hours a day, usually aren't the most
sociable
normal,
and easy
most
to work
sociable
with.
people.
But you guys played soccer growing up,
Right.
Football here. We call it the
Right.
right name, football.
Yeah.
You guys played football growing up, and obviously you had to build a team and the rapport with teammates and the camaraderie.
That's
of
the
that.
biggest thing. Just like being a teammate, just
Yeah.
like understanding like everyone has feelings. It's not just you. Like, it's weird, man.